Gravedigger Queen here. Happy, almost Halloween, children. I'm bursting with joy. I have a Sam Hain miracle. Yet another Zack and Harlii tale. This is a two-parter, children. Zack finds himself a case to study in Appalachia. His mystery is a hard one to crack because it's so many monsters in one localized place. Kinda reminds me of Monster Freaknik. I could do a whole tale about just that, children, but gotta keep it PG for the tube. The name of tonight's tale is I Wanna Believe by Montsho Shelby.
It had been a while since me and Harlii went out on location. Sure, we investigated a thing here and there, but we hadn't really dove deep in a while. With the show taking off and the responsibilities of a new baby, we didn't really have time to do like the old days and just get in a van and chase down leads. So, for the past handful of months, our show coasted off its own inertia. We had a backlog of stories we had yet to release, along with a handful of assistants and other investigators that picked up the slack and scouted out juicy stories they found out in the middle of nowhere. Now things had finally stabilized to the point we could get back out in the field, and lucky for us, I found a quaint little town in Appalachia that was too intriguing not to check out personally. I brought Maximilian, a young guy about 21 with a plucky attitude and a personality that told you he hadn't been punched in the face and beaten down by life just yet. I also brought Ebony, who was a badass chick who probably by all accounts could kick my ass. Then there was Harlii and I. Me and Harlii rode up in the mystery mobile loaded with all our equipment, and we rendezvoused with Max and Ebony at a diner right outside of the nowhere place in the Carolinas. Harlii and I walked into the diner. I'm not conceited, or at least I don't like to think I am, but I'm a decent enough looking white boy, and I keep myself together, and Harlii is a smoking hot Brazilian woman with curves to kill for. Mocha all wrapped in an hourglass. The sheer amount of odd-looking people we encountered here made us seem like models from planet Zarkon or some shit by comparison. In clocking the assembled crowd, I noticed a man in a black suit sitting in the corner drinking coffee. No food, just coffee and a cigarette. Which was slightly odd because A, no one in the town was dressed up, and B, I wasn't aware that anywhere in America was okay with letting you smoke indoors. I didn't want to be an asshole, but I couldn't begin to think of a job in this place that would even warrant a suit. Maybe he was a mortician. That was my only guess. I didn't harp on him. He was just an interesting point of interest. We both got a booth and only ordered drinks because Max and Ebony texted and said they would be in shortly.
So, do you plan on telling me what we came down here for, Zack?
Grilled Harlii. Of course I do, I said before going silent again. Harlii waited there for a few seconds and after 30 seconds realized I had no intentions of telling her now.
What is it?
Asked Harlii. A good one, several in fact, but I'd rather wait for Max and Ebony, or else I'll have to repeat myself.
You're not even going to give me a hint,
she said. No, because you're not going to get it. Half of these claims have to be bullshit anyways, but some of them might not be. Harlii rolled her eyes and sucked in a deep breath as if she were going to get indignant, but that was when Max and Ebony walked in. Max was a dorky-looking white boy who looked like what if Spider-Man Andrew Garfield never made it big. And Ebony looked like a strong black woman that would have fought Blackula in a 1970s black exploitation movie. I stood up and hugged them both in turn. They were two of the best investigators we had. Ebony, I believe, found the more esoteric occurrences of supernatural origin, some that actually needed to be actually managed physically. So she knew that some of the things that went bump in the night bumped back, while Max mostly dealt with ghost stories. But if his investigations were true, he got into a handful of hairy situations himself. These were our A-tier investigators, so we didn't have to dance around the validity of the supernatural world. Even though like 95% of the claims we investigate turn out to be ridiculous bullshit, it didn't matter in the case of the show whether it was fake or real. because it was about 75% entertainment, 15% build-up, and 10% truth. In the end, the format of the show may mask the real truth, but telling people the truth was like giving medicine to children. If you didn't make it taste good, they weren't going to take it. Ebony and Max sat down on the other side of the booth.
You know, Zach, you're the only white boy I come all the way down here for a sight unseen. It looks like this is where they base Dukes of Hazzard,
said Ebony.
I don't want to throw shade myself, but this does look a lot like the cold open of Idiocracy,
Max added on. Well, maybe you might both be right, but regardless of what it looks like, let me tell you why we're all here, I said, leaning forward dramatically. We got just in this little township 15 completely different supernatural occurrences that happened in the past month. When I say completely, I mean completely. I said while throwing a few manila folders down with a little information and whatever pictures I could muster. Max took the manila folder that happened to land on top. He gave it the quick once over.
So this lady claims to have seen the Headless Horseman. The Headless Horseman?
He asked suspiciously and optimistically. I know that Ebony and Max were made up of the same stuff that me and Harlii were, so as scary as claims like that might be, it was also supremely fascinating if there was even the slightest bit of truth to it. Ebony picked up a random folder, and so did Harlii.
This one says something about the creature from the Black Lagoon. Are we sure there just isn't something in the water?
Ebony said. Incidentally, at that moment, the waitress all placed glasses of water in front of us. We all smiled and graciously ignored it. I was cool with bottled water, beef jerky, and trail mix for a few days, though I wasn't sure if Harlii would be.
Does this one say Krampus?
Said Harlii. I took a casual glance at the folder. Yeah, sure does.
How much of this is bullshit?
Asked Ebony. Don't know. Maybe all of it, but that's why we're here. One or two, and I wouldn't have bothered looking into any of this, but altogether this seems unusually odd, right? Any one of these cases could be two-parters for the show, and yet we got like 10 of these legendary monster sightings in one place. I was thinking, we all hit the streets and start asking questions. Drop the show if you need to. Let's get some people talking. See if there's any evidence to any of these things or any connection that links these all together. We ask questions, get footage, and see if there's anything interesting enough to use. And if we can't find anything, maybe at the end of the day, it could just be the water. So yeah, maybe don't eat or drink anything here. So, I think we should split these up. You guys take a few you like, and we'll take a few. If anything, and I mean anything, looks like it could be real, don't go off in the woods chasing it alone. Call us all back, and we'll work it one at a time if we have to, I said.
Did you all bring guns?
Asked Harlii. Ebony smiled as if that wasn't even a question she needed to ask. She peeled back the folds of her black long coat to reveal a small arsenal of weapons, from guns to knives to stakes. No, I didn't bring that with me. Just a Bible and some holy water just in case, plus my prayer book. If we're calling dibs, I'd love to be the first to take a crack at this Headless Horseman claim, said Max. That wasn't much of a surprise because the Headless Horseman was quite a popular spirit creature, and Max almost exclusively did ghost investigations. Ebony looked at a few of the folders.
I think I'll let y'all take the ones with the really white-sounding names, she said.
Max gave me a high five before he left out, and Ebony nodded. They were absolutely feelers, more excited to get to it than to do research.
So are we gonna split up too?
Asked Harlii. Not just yet. I'd prefer to get a handle on how real any of these threats are before we do that.
You know, I'm not made of glass. I don't break,
she said. Harlii noticed I was scared to leave her alone. Ever since the new baby, something in me changed. I don't know what to call it. Fear of losing my family. I don't know what. I knew Harlii was capable. I absolutely knew it. But the fear was my hang-up, not hers. I'm sorry, okay? Was all I could say, and she knew why. She didn't seem to be oblivious to my trepidation and humored me.
We can at least do the first one together, okay?
She said, as a compromise. Thanks. We drove the mystery machine, which was what I called my little minivan, to a small trailer down a backwoods that barely had a proper address. About a quarter mile up the dirt road, we lost the trail and had to leave the car behind. I grabbed my backpack with the camera equipment. We trekked towards where this trailer was supposed to be located, and we reacquired a gravel road that was hidden by foliage. On the way up, we noticed very accurate and lifelike stone lawn ornaments of animals. When we saw the statue of the deer, Harlii just came out and said it.
Did someone say they saw a Medusa or something?
That's what the report says. It was haunting looking at the unblinking eyes of the deer, and as hard to believe as the idea of a creature that turned living beings to stone, the idea someone was that good at stonework was almost equally as hard to believe. "Do you want to do a few shots?" I said, hoisting the bigger camera from the bag.
Let's see what.
Harlii looked at the name on the file.
Winnie Bama? Winnie Bama?
That's the name I saw.
Okay. Let's see what she has to say first. But even if this is bullshit, we may be able to scrape something out of this.
On that, we both agreed. When the brush cleared out, we were seeing more and more stone animals. Stone possums, stone raccoons, stone birds. Right by the cabin was a stone statue of a man wearing overalls with a Harley-Davidson baseball cap. He had a surprised look in his eye and a beer in his hand. He was in the middle of the lawn as if he had been artistically positioned. There was a rundown trailer with a dream catcher hanging out on the porch along with wind chimes. The door of the trailer, which didn't seem as if it had ever moved, bursted open. A woman in a barely white tank top wielding a shotgun made her presence known with her eyes clearly closed.
"Okay, you son of a bitch, you die today!"
she yelled with all the fury she had inside of her. Harlii and I hit the dirt, and the shot fired over our heads. She wasn't even slightly close. "Miss, I'm Zach Valentino, and I'm with Harlii McNamara. We came here to investigate your claim," I said.
"No fucking way. Are you two from that Gravedigger show?"
said the woman who had yet to open her eyes. "Yes, we are, and for the record, we do not have the power to make anyone stone." The woman seemed to think about it as if she had been tricked before, but ultimately opened her eyes.
"Boy, you're prettier in person than you are on the show,"
she said. She lowered her weapon and urged us in.
"Well, come on in if you're coming,"
she said while walking back into the janky house. I moved to help Harlii up, but she smacked my hand away. It was hard for me to not want to help her, but maybe it was just my residual caveman instincts coming to the forefront. When we walked in, it was exactly like you would expect. Anytime something broke, it seemed to have a second life as furniture. Nothing was clean and it smelled like cats. A lot of cats, if I'm being real. She rested her shotgun on the edge of the couch and sat down. She offered me a folding chair and Harlii a broken CRT television set to sit on.
"I never thought that big-time celebrities would make time for little old me,"
said the woman who could have been 25 or 55. "I check odd stories. Yours was really interesting. Do you mind if I film you doing an interview?" I said.
"Is this gonna be on TV?"
she asked with excitement. "It may, depending on what we can find out."
"Well, I'll tell you everything I know,"
she said, winking her eyes in what I assumed was flirting, but to me it looked a lot like someone that had something in their eye. Harlii chuckled. Of course she thought it was funny, because this chick was no threat to her, even though I couldn't think of a woman that could be. I handed the camera to Harlii because she seemed to take a shine to me. Harlii gave up the spotlight without a word, knowing exactly why I did what I did. Whoever was closest to the goalpost was the one that might as well run in the touchdown.
"It all started a few weeks ago. Me and Merle were out noodling," said Winnie. "You know, putting bait on your arm and jamming it in a catfish's mouth."
"Does that work?" It sure as shit does. Gone in the icebox if you don't believe me, said Mrs. Bama, as if she was confident. So anyways, we started noticing stonefish. We almost called in the museum types because maybe we struck oil and it was like dinosaurs on our property. We didn't think nothing of it more than that. The next few days we started seeing animals like squirrels turned into stone. Now, right away I told Merle that's a Medusa. He called me stupid for it. But I ain't the one frozen block solid on the lawn. Now is I, Merle? She said as if she were having the last word in an imaginary conversation with Merle. So you didn't see it then? I asked. What type of question is that? Of course I didn't see it. If I saw it, I'd be on the lawn too. Is this just happening to you? Has anyone else been having this problem? No, not that I've heard, but I have been keeping my ear to the ground because I don't want to come off as crazy, you know. She said. Do you know when or where any of this happens, or at what times it happens? I asked. No, I just start blasting the moment I hear something, and that works for me, she said. I think you have a case, Mrs. Bama. Miss Bama, she corrected. If you let us look around and take a few shots, we'd love to get to the bottom of this. So I'm gonna be on the show, she said with excitement. Yeah, I think so. If you'll excuse us for a moment, me and Harlii slipped outside. We got something here. I'm gonna go to the van and find some lipstick cameras. Maybe we can get something, I said. Are you sure you're not gonna catch feelings for Miss Bama? Harlii said with a chuckle. My inner asshole welled up. I don't know. You may want to be on your best behavior before you get replaced. You cool with me going back to the van and getting more equipment? I said. Oh, I wouldn't know what to do without male guidance, Harlii joked, doing her Gone with the Wind Southern Belle voice. I'll be right back, I said, jogging back towards the car. I rifled through the back of the car and picked up some gear. I figured I could place a few cameras around the area and see if anything showed up. As I was about halfway back on the long trudge, I heard the distinctive sound of gunshots. It came from a pistol, maybe Harlii's pistol. Then I heard, mingled in with the noise, the boom of a shotgun. Out of all the things I brought, I didn't bring my gun with me. I had just fallen out of the habit of keeping it on me at all times. And it was in another bag in the van. I knew exactly where. I knew Harlii had hers on her, and it being noon, I figured what exactly would bother to try something now? Everyone knew that monsters moved under cover of night. I dropped all the camera gear and had a decision to make. Do I run a block back to the car or take my chances with whatever it was that was happening at the trailer? I pushed on. I had to check on Harlii whether she was in danger or not. I ran up to the trailer but stayed off the path on the off chance whoever was shooting was walking along it. The door of the trailer was open when I got there. I slipped in as quickly and as stealthily as I knew how. Clear as day, I saw Miss Bama frozen in stone with a look of horror. Her arm was posed as if she were holding her shotgun, but I didn't see it. I pulled out my phone to call Harlii. As the phone rang, I looked down to the ground and saw a faint dirt trail of something big that slithered. Fuck, I muttered. Harlii's phone went to voicemail. Fuck, I muttered again. If this was a Medusa, or a Medusa as the Greek legend, I didn't have a shield to look through. I searched the apartment for something, a mirror, a shiny pot, anything, because in the myth, her reflection was the only image safe enough for you to look at. I happened to see a Louisville Slugger by the door. I picked it up. I ran to the bathroom. Maybe I could break off a piece of the mirror and use it. As I took 2 steps, buckshot ripped through the house. Harlii, is that you? It's me, I said, figuring maybe she had Miss Bama's shotgun. And whoever was shooting already knew I was there, so there was no point in pretending I wasn't. I got no answer. I wanted to look outside, but I didn't see that as being a good idea considering the circumstances. I then thought I was looking at this problem as if it needed a low-tech solution, when in the end the answer was in my pocket. I leaned low and on the wall, took out my phone, and inverted the camera. I put as little of myself as I possibly could in the threshold of the door. I slowly and quietly tilted the little device. Nothing, until it wasn't nothing. Nearly a foot from my person, glaring into the eye of a camera, was a hideous woman with hair writhing snakes. She was standing still in hopes I would peek around the corner. When she saw my roving hand, she raised Miss Bama's shotgun. I didn't waste any time. This trailer wasn't big enough to play a game of hide and seek, and there was only one obvious way out, but I took the road less traveled. As dangerous as it was, I ran as fast as I could and threw myself at the side window. If my rotation was good, when I hit ground, I'd fall into a roll and absorb the shock, and if it wasn't, the worst case scenario was that I would cut myself up bad and got paralyzed. I didn't say die because I'd rather be dead than paralyzed. As luck would have it, I remembered how to take a fall and didn't have a plate glass window drop on my spine. I rolled perfectly, picked myself up, and darted into the brush. At that moment, I truly wished I had a camera set up because that was badass. I could feel the creature at my back, but obviously couldn't see it. I heard a shotgun blast go off from behind my back. The buckshot splattered on a nearby tree, ripping into its bark. I didn't stop running, but I could feel something gaining on me. I decided to use the little head start I had and hid behind a tree. I lost my bat before I tumbled out of the window, so I had to make do. I kept my back planted on a thick tree and tilted my phone camera behind me slowly. I held my breath to steady myself. After silently panning, I noticed the monstrous creature was 10 paces behind me. She stopped when I stopped. Perhaps she was hoping to get a read on where my footsteps had went. She was actively reloading a shotgun. I suppose if I had access to modern tech, it'd be foolish of me to believe she was too dumb to utilize it as well. I looked around for a branch or rock to clock her with, but I had no clue if I could do it with my back turned. I found a baseball-sized stone in the dirt. I suppose the best I could hope for was to close my eyes, turn, and toss. She seemed to be much faster than me in this uneven terrain, so running didn't seem the best play to make. The Medusa was one shell away from finishing her reload. In that split second, I gauged my distance by way of the camera, spun, and tossed a rock as hard as I possibly could. I whirled back around, having no clue if I hit her or not. When I turned my camera around, she was a foot from my person, and I could smell her rancid breath. I dove in a random direction without looking at her blast me in the back or turn me to stone. I heard a viciously loud yell, 2 thuds, and no gunshot. When I rolled behind another tree, I quickly looked into my phone. Harlii was standing over the bitch with bloody hedge clippers. I stood up and walked backwards towards Harlii, who turned her back to the dead beast. If the legends were true, or any of the several fucking movies made about the subject, her gaze was just as deadly in death as it was in life. "Fancy meeting you here," said Harlii. "I'd hug you if I knew how to do it with my back turned," I said. I hit record on my phone and got footage of the creature. It was so good, there wasn't a chance in hell people wouldn't claim this was a special effect. We stuffed the Medusa's head in a backpack because it was too dangerous to just leave laying out, and we'd come back for the rest of her later. I had a respect for serial killers after me and Harlii had to seriously navigate the ins and outs of moving a body. Harlii, oddly enough, was scarily competent when it came to that, and I was too scared to ask her why. When I picked up the phone to call Max, I realized I had missed a call from him recently. He answered his phone in a huff. I could hear the sounds of his car accelerating. "Where are you?" I said urgently. Tossing the book bag with the monster head in the back, along with the camera gear I had to abandon. I don't know if I lost him," said Max. I heard car noises and the swerving of tires on the other end of the phone. "If you can, meet us back at the diner," I said. I got into the van and tore ass to the rendezvous point.
Join us for part 2, will you? Next week, children. Keep an eye out.